Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing really well. Today's topic is going to talk to you about different financing options. Now, this is important for both buyers and sellers. And the reason why we're going to talk about financing options is because in this current market, none of us like where the interest rates have gone. Even though historically they're still very low, we've had them so low that we forgot what a kind of normal interest rate is. And so we got to deal with some of those changes. So I'm going to talk to you today about that. We're going to talk about 2-1 buy downs, assumptions, and also points. All three of those have not been in our vocabulary for some years because interest rates were so low, but they are definitely back into the vocabulary today. So let's talk about 2-1 buy downs and what are they? So lenders are offering in current market a 2-1 buy down, which means first year is at a reduced rate, second year is at a slightly higher rate, and third year is at the current rate. What does that do? That allows a buyer to get into a house with the plans of refinancing at some future point in the next 2 years because projections are the rates may come down. So the purpose of that is twofold. Sellers can look at contributing to a 2-1 buy down that gets a buyer in a house where they couldn't before because the payment was a little higher, and the buyer can get themselves in a house at a lower payment knowing that they're going to try and refinance before that year 3. Now, what is important for the buyer to understand about that? This is a great tool to use, but you should never use this tool if year 3 is a payment you cannot afford at all. Bad idea. So use it as a tool for manipulation if you're planning on and can refinance. Worst case in year 3, rates haven't changed. You're not going to go higher than where today's rate is. And you're okay at that, not where you want to be, but you're okay with that. So that's really important about 2-1 buy downs. Now let's talk about the next one is assumptions. Assumptions is where a current note that the seller has is assumable by the buyer. They just have to pay the equity difference to the seller in negotiations. Oftentimes, buyers that have money to put down can do an assumption because they have the cash to be able to do that. They were going to do it on a regular loan anyway. And so that lower interest rate is extremely attractive. The key is your note as a seller assumable? Because not all notes are. Where do you go find that information? Well, if you go back to your closing paperwork, and you look on your actual note, which is a couple of page document, and it does say note on the top of the document, this will dictate whether the loan is assumable or not. They often have a checkbox on whether it is or isn't. For all of you that have assumable loans as a seller, this is a great tool to advertise to a buyer because it's extremely attractive if they can put the cash difference down, that equity difference down, and assume your possibly 2.5, 3.5 interest rate. So good for a buyer who has money and great for a seller if their loan is assumable. Now, key thing to remember here is a VA loan. For all of you that have a VA loan, your loan typically is assumable, but it does one thing. It ties up your VA. You can only use a portion of it depending on the loan amount, or you can't use it at all until that loan gets paid off by the next buyer. So there are some caveats in doing assumptions. It's good to work with someone that's educated on it and understands the whole process, but it's a great tool in our current market. Then the last one is points. And points is something that can be contributed to by a seller. So instead of a seller saying, hey, I want to reduce my price by $5,000 or I want to reduce my price by $10,000, oftentimes it's not the price that the buyer's having the issue with in this current market, it's the interest rate. So if you could actually apply those points towards closing costs to buy down the interest rate for a buyer, often that's more attractive than a price reduction in the current market. Now, you would think that all agents would know this and would negotiate appropriately or have that conversation with the lender. Unfortunately, many lenders don't necessarily have that conversation with the buyer, nor do the agents. So instead of always talking price reduction, then let's look at how much would it cost to buy the interest rate down a half a point or a full point. What does that mean to me in dollars? And maybe I use that as a tool in advertising to attract a buyer versus just dropping my price. I will tell you one thing, it will make you stand out differently in the marketplace. So that's our 3 different financing topics today for both buyers and sellers. Again, if we can ever answer any questions or be of assistance, Missy Stegers, broker owner of M. Stegers Realty Partners, please reach out to us, give us a call or send us an email. We'll be glad to help you.